Welcome to economictimes.com. I'm Maloney Bhatt. Now, this session is for everyone, whether in business or if you're an employee, to understand generative AI and how it can maximize business potential and what does it mean for you. So we are very thrilled to have with us two experts who will give us some insight into this exciting world of generative AI, the unique challenges and opportunities that it poses within the Indian landscape. This conversation is part of our Soonicorn Summit dialogues. Soonicorn Summit is our flagship event, and the on-ground event is on 3rd November in Delhi. I urge you all to come attend it. The summit will bring together Indian tech startup leaders, entrepreneurs, and stakeholders to address growth opportunities and challenges in the evolving market. It also attempts to equip everyone, including those from Bharat, to build profitable and scalable businesses in the new economy. So that's on the Soonicorn Summit. But now let's get back to our topic and our discussion for today, which is maximizing business potential with generative AI in India. To introduce my guests, I have with me Ravi Ramachandran. He's the partner engineering Google Cloud Platform. Welcome, Ravi.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
I have with me Malay Bhowmik. He is the head enterprise sales Google Business Unit, Persistent Systems, India and APAC. Good to have you here with us, Malay.
Thanks, Melanie. Thanks for having me here.
All right, we're looking forward to discussing key considerations, metrics, and benchmarks for measuring AI's business impact and how your businesses can provide practical guidance for Indian enterprises aiming to enhance their bottom line with AI. So first, to start with you, Malay, and I'd like to begin on the broad picture on generative AI, and of course, touch upon the hype that surrounds it. Now, regarding Gartner's hype cycle, where generative AI is currently in the peak of inflated expectations, what's your take on India's position with GenAI? Particularly something that concerns digital natives, and how do you foresee GenAI's momentum in the next 3 to 5 years?
So, Melanie, I would say it's not no more a hype. It's more of a reality now. Because the kind of tractions I'm getting from the Indian market, whether it is digital native, whether it is traditional organizations, enterprises. So I would say it is no more a hype, it's all more of a reality. And of course, digital native has a more age because the kind of business they are into, and they are heavily dependent on the technology and the kind of leadership they have. They are most of the CIOs, CTOs are also a co-founder, and they are coming from the technical background. So adoption is very, very fast. Having said that, I would also say that traditional enterprises are showing more traction, specifically for the segment of BFSI, healthcare, and retail. They are also showing more interest and more traction specifically for the GenAI segment. And as far as India and concern for the next 3-5 years, I would say it has a huge potential. The kind of tractions I'm getting from there, I can sense it. And of course, I was reading some article where McKinsey is claiming that around $2.6 trillion to $4.4 trillion additionally the global economy is going to get for the next 5 years. And if you look at India's startup economy and startup, approximately 70% of startups are registered themselves for the GenAI specific solutions. So from there itself, I could see India has a huge potential market for GenAI for the next couple of years.
All right, definitely a huge potential market, but I think the hype is that whenever a new AI sort of application or whatever comes around, there's a lot of gushing praise for it, or also, the rush to kind of adopt it and adapt it. But I think we'll get a little bit more into it, through our conversation. Ravi, the next question is for you. When it comes to Indian enterprises adopting generative AI, and Malay has made a reference to a couple of sectors, considering the unique business landscape and the cultural context, what are the specific challenges that you anticipate?
Hey, thank you, everyone. Thank you for the question. And of course, touching upon what Malay said, right, there have been very good interest from Indian segment, specifically FSI and of course HCLS, which is the healthcare segment. Coming to your point, right, there are two pieces that we would want to look at the discussion. One is the trend. Start of 2023, the consumer side of the world essentially began to experience this entire journey of GenAI with services like Bard, which is a Google product, and of course ChatGPT. Now, the same consumer experience, the enterprise also wants to now get hold of it and possibly onboard on it at the earliest. So they essentially are trying to say we have been part of a AI journey. Now let's get into the Gen AI journey, because that's the next inflection point that we are all going to witness, and we are all going to go through a transformation. That's the trend that we have seen, and as Malay rightly said, we are seeing it moving from boardroom conversation to reality in a real span of say 6 months, and like partners like Persistent as accelerators to make it happen. From a challenges perspective, it's the same for all the customers, right? Is my data secure? Is the data residency guidelines in place? Is my intellectual property safe with me? All of these are standard questions coming across the table. And of course, we at Google essentially have made something called as a responsible AI, which is the base for GenAI services on which all the foundational services have been created. So we at Google essentially have created a separate stack for enterprise, which is not a consumer service, which is actually an enterprise service, which is called as a Vertex AI, on which all these services have been built. And all of this comes with inherent capabilities of responsible AI. The customer essentially gets a complete tenant like any other cloud services. So there is no use of customer service of one tenant with the other. Second is the customer gets factual responses. So I, as an employee in an enterprise, when I make a search using a GenAI tool, I need to get factual responses. What it essentially means is, what are these responses coming from? Is it from a legal team? Is it from a product team? Is it from an HR team? I need to be told of the information so that I can make the right information when I consume the information. And the third one is, will I be able to get access to first party tools and third party tools, which is again what Google essentially has taken into the entire solution. We are offering our own first party services. We are partnered with the open source models, and of course the customer can access third party models also. So the customer gets the enterprise in this case is the customer, gets the entire access to all these models, which is actually a right fit for them, and they can pick and choose, or else we will help them with the partners to make a right selection depending upon the use case that they're in.
So
So
you're
we, of course,
essentially,
right.
go on.
So we essentially are looking at all these challenges, which is an obvious thing that is coming from enterprise mindset, has been largely worked through, and we essentially have taken the step 2 with the customers, wherein this is the starting conversation that we take it to the customer, so that we make it really sure that this is not a consumer offering, this is an enterprise offering, and we understand these to the basics. Thank you.
All right, Ravi, that sounds really good because you're actually talking of the guardrails that Google is anyways implementing to address all these concerns, which encompass ethical usage, data validity, and of course, the big issue of bias. So that is good to know. Malay, I'd like to speak to you on data privacy and security. In India's regulatory landscape, ensuring data privacy and compliance is very crucial. So can you elaborate on how your company ensures this, while you implement Gen AI solutions?
Yeah. Well, so first of all, let me tell you, since the beginning of our, inception of these organizations, we are dealing with the data. We call ourselves as a digital engineering company. So it is nothing but, working with the data. So since the beginning, we are very much concerned and very much aware about the customer data and data privacy and data security. And secondly, as far as India is concerned, we are aware about the recent law which has been passed, and which is a Digital Personal Data Act, and in the same time, not only India, across the globe, we are serving 21 countries. So, and wherever they have local, respective countries has a local norms and regulations, like European Union has a GDPR and all. We are doing all the policies, and in addition to that, we are strictly following the data access method, and also we have been training our employees regularly, frequently. While doing this conversation, I'm getting an email from my security team, like, this is the month of security awareness program and the data security program and all. So this type of activities we keep doing to aware our the employees are sitting at customer places and also sitting at our offices. So we have been following all the rules and regulations while doing implementing this whether it is GenAI or any such technologies. We've been following all the required norms and regulations for that matter.
All right. Touching on skill and talent development,
Mhm.
while you go and implement all of these solutions in companies, are you getting this sort of feedback from the ground that, there is a shortage of AI expertise despite India's abundant talent pool? What are the sort of initiatives, if you'd like to talk about some of those that Persistent Systems is taking to help enterprises develop perhaps the necessary skills, which could result in successful AI integration?
Yeah, I mean, we are aware about this, crisis, but as an organization, we are always ahead of the curve. Like, we anticipated this long back, and therefore we have been hiring a lot of talented resources from the resources from the global universities. At the same time, we are reskilling and upskilling our existing set of employees, and in the same time, we are investing huge amount of money for acquiring some technologies companies. So we don't see any shortage of resources, skillful resources. For that matter, we have 100 plus certified engineers for on particularly on AI. I myself is certified, basic level of certified, though I'm not from the technical side of the business, but I'm business side of the organization. So, but I'm also trained by as a policy, everybody has to go through the basic level of certification. So that way, we have been training our existing employees, also hiring the resources. So we do not face any such of resource crunch or maybe that shortage of resources.
All right, that's good to know, Ravi. But basically, the whole point of integrating AI into business is so that businesses can maintain efficiency and, of course, scale. So, can you give us some use cases on how enterprises are customizing and adapting GenAI solutions to cater to their specific needs and, the preferences of the Indian market?
Well, specifically from an enterprise standpoint, right? The enterprise, the entire GenAI suite essentially has been created with a mind that this GenAI will be useful by business users as well as by developers or by AI practitioners. So it's not that AI will be this AI, GenAI in specific, which is a Google offering, has been created across the personas. So I could be a business user trying to create a report out of trying to create a forecast report out of 30 years of past trends. Or else I am a marketing person trying to launch a new campaign, let us say of an FMCG product across 30 states in different languages. And these are essentially generative tasks that can be repeated, but at the same time needs to be automated. Or else I'm an IT person essentially trying to code some stuff, trying to create some stuff, or try to write a new language, or possibly convert from one language to the other. All the three personas essentially are different from each other, but from a GenAI perspective, each one of them can be essentially handled. Now there are some parameters like fine tuning. These are technical terms. This essentially allows the tool or the system to be more productive. At the same time, it can be really getting to a point wherein it can be either creative or conservative. What I mean by creative is when you wear a marketing hat, essentially the tool essentially can give you some creative outputs. So you essentially change the temperature and you get creative outputs. But you want conservative outputs. Let us say you wear a legal hat, you get conservative outputs from the same tool. So the tool essentially is curated and created in a fashion to essentially manage different users within an enterprise and give them results of their choice.
Could you then, provide, maybe some examples or strategies where Indian enterprises have, maximized their return on investment through Gen AI adoption?
Thank you. Well, when it comes to Gen AI, right, one of the first things that comes to the mind is what is the time to value that the customer can get? Because the customers have gone through boardroom conversations, executive briefings, and possibly some, lot of marketing hype around it. Now the customers are trying to say, what is the use case that you're going to solve, and how soon can you solve? That's the time to value that the customer is talking about. Now let's talk of a real life example, which, of course, from an aviation industry in the recent past from India itself. Okay, the aviation industry typically for the end consumer was actually using a traditional bot, which is not actually contextual. What is not contextual is essentially you ask a question, you get a response. You ask a subsequent question which is related to the first one, the tool is unable to make a correlation between the first and the next question. But when it comes to Gen AI, essentially it gives you a contextual response. Let us say I want to travel from Bombay to Delhi, And then I also say that, and the next chat response, I'm saying that, I would prefer a morning flight. So it's not going to ask me which direction again, because it now has a context that it's a Mumbai to Delhi. And then I say it's a ALC as my preference. It is going to take context from all the three and essentially give me responses. What has happened in this entire journey is the time to book a ticket was typically 10 to 12 minutes for an individual from a consumer perspective, which has been reduced to 5 to 6 minutes. Straight away, the customer got a 50% benefit in the operational expense. Point number two, now since it's contextual, right? Till now, the bots were typically user generated. A user needs to send a hi and to the system, and the system would respond back. Now imagine I'm traveling from Bombay to Delhi, and on the date of the flight, I forget to book a cab or possibly a porter. Imagine in the morning, at the same time of the flight, I get a notification from the chat, from the tool, stating that should I book a cab from my house to the airport, or possibly book a
It's
porter.
anticipating your needs.
Yeah. So that's the thing that, and I wake up and in 2 clicks I can book a cab, and possibly that essentially helped the aviation industry to bring the upside on the sell side of it, which was not the cycle that they were part of. So these are two use cases. One is essentially bringing down the cost, and two is upselling the services. These are two use cases that we already implemented with the aviation industry, and they are seeking the benefits from it.
Here, at least, Ravi, the revenue model and all of that is very clear in terms of the time saved and of course, in terms of the upselling, which is happening with it. But, Malay, do you think that, right now, with the emergence of GenAI, enterprise customers are experiencing a fear of missing out? Do you feel that in some places, and not the sectors that you mentioned right at the beginning, but, in some of the other sectors, they're rushing into adoption, even though the revenue model for GenAI is still evolving?
I mean, it's not specific to the GenAI, but if you look at any new technologies entering into the market, it may not be give you the revenue from the day one. So as an organization, we have to think in a different way. Every organization has their own strategy, but we always take a balancing approach. Okay, as let me tell you what we have done. Recently, we have partnered with very specific partnership with Google. Though we are a Google partner for the decades, but we have done a specific partnership with Google, and where we have launched suite of services, cloud services under the GenAI umbrella, and tried to build lot of customized and differentiated IPs and products and accelerators, so that we can bring more and more value added services for my customers. So it is eventually you are helping and solving the customer problem, real time, solving the real time challenges for the customers. So I don't think so, and there is a challenge of revenue, and it is always not revenue, it always have to be a balancing approach. So we are adopting that approach.
All right. Okay. But what about this fear that many have talked of, right? Like the fear of job losses. If AI can do the job and, do it more efficiently. And of course, Ravi has given us some examples of how selling is happening now, within the aviation industry. Now, in the light of these potential job impacts in India's tech and services industry, what's your perspective on these concerns regarding job losses?
Yeah. So let me tell you, this is not an India specific problem. First of all, it's a global problem, and therefore India, and when any problem comes, so every organization, every enterprises, every country has a specific strategy to challenge to solve their challenges. So I haven't seen for the last 2 years that persistent system is laying off any resources, whereas we have been hiring lot of new resources, and we are acquiring a lot of new companies, and you will surprised to know that we have crossed the $1 billion path, and that's how we are growing, and we are opening the offices every small cities, tier 2 cities, and opening our offices across the globe. So therefore I don't experience any job losses for us, whereas we have a lot of opportunities and we are growing at a very, very rapid pace. That's how I can only share about my company.
Ravi, this is now my last question to you, and it has to do with change management. Overcoming internal resistance is often a significant challenge for enterprises. What recommendations do you have for such Indian enterprises to manage and surmount this resistance during the integration of GenAI?
Thank you. Well, for this piece, right, this is a normal conversation through any digital transformation that we go through or a new technology coming onto the table. So we essentially get two pieces of the conversation. And where do I get started from as an enterprise? And will it impact the roles that are existing? I already defined, and there's already a lot of employees already in there. So how do we handle both of them? Where do I start from is an easy conversation, I would say. Both of them are actually, we have tackled it well. First one, essentially, where do I start from? We essentially say to the customer, okay, now you have gone through the personas and the entire use cases. Let's find out the priority and let's try to find the time to value. As I spoke about the aviation industry, we essentially chalked out which one of them can bring out the time to value faster and essentially bring in some revenue to the organization. We bring on those use cases, bring in the like-minded people on the enterprise side who essentially are the user of the services, and get them onboarded. So they essentially are using a technology which is possibly from 2020. Now they essentially get onboarded from an employee perspective in 2023 with the latest and greatest. Now they are essentially playing with the tools that they were not exposed to and not their peers were exposed to. So there is higher levels of employee satisfaction. At the end level, the consumer, of course, has got the benefits that we spoke upon earlier. Coming to the second piece, right? Second piece is about, would the AI impact the roles? We need to take a step back and try to find out, as an employee, would I want to do the mundane and the repeated task again and again? Let us say I'm in a sales journey. Would I want to fill up the same RFP from a different customer coming in and putting up a proposal again and doing the same work which I did it for a different FSI 2 days back? Or from a marketing perspective, should I create the same content across 27 different languages in India because I need to customize it for them? These are mundane tasks. Most of the employees working for them essentially are trying to say, let's find a tool to solve this, and let me increase my intellectual level and cognitive capabilities to do stuff beyond this. This is where GenAI essentially is actually coming to the rescue and helping the employees to give them first correct responses. So you want to essentially create a blog, you want to create a content, or possibly write a first piece of code. Instead of starting from scratch or starting from a blank document, the draft is the first stuff that GenAI is essentially giving to you. Now use your cognitive intelligence to essentially build upon it and create a better response for the customer. So the traditional aspects of searching from different documentation and trying to pull up stuff which is already done by 20 other people is essentially now automated, which the employees are more than happy. Now the employees essentially are now beginning to use the intelligence side of it to make the responses better and qualitative for the user. So these are the aspects that essentially which started as an obstacle are now being seen as an opportunity. As we rightly say, right, this is actually a fourth industrial revolution that we are all going through, and the transformation that we are going to experience and we are going through the journey. It's a matter of real pleasure that each one of us essentially will be taking the entire IT industry through this digital transformation on tools created by us, and of course partners like Persistent delivering it for us.
With GenAI, of course, cannot be overstressed, considering the fact that, we have a large swath of the population and a large swath of the economy, which is still not formalized. So yes, generative AI will have and could have possible impacts, but I think, as both of you have pointed out, it has to be used responsibly and, of course, with all the guardrails in place. And many of the companies which are attempting this for enterprise customers such as yours are already trying to do so. So thanks very much, Malay and Ravi, for your thoughts. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
And to all
Thank you very much.
of those watching, if you have any questions on this particular topic, do write into us and we'll try and get them to Ravi and Malay, and maybe you all can start a conversation. Thanks very much, everyone, for watching. And you can catch all the sessions of the Soonicorn Summit on our website, economictimes.com. I'm Maloney Bhatt, and I shall see you soon.